Hello everybody, how is it going? It is your boy, Lucas here, and we are about to dive into the best and the worst albums of 2016. Alright, now before we do that, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to smash that like button. We need to get this video to 200,000 likes so that YouTube actually promotes my video. I'm joking. Like it if you want, click it if you want, I really don't care, but we're about to dive in to these albums. Alright, let's start off with the disappointing albums of 2016. First up on the docket is going to be Corey Feldman's Angelic to Funkadelic, whatever he called his album. It was a super long title. I did a review of it. This thing was so bad, but he tried to do it in a serious way, and it was bad. It's like this Charlie's Angels thing, and Snoop Dogg's on here, Fred Durst is on here. This thing was so bad, it ended up being comic. It was a good laugh because he was actually serious about it. Are you serious, Corey? If you want a good laugh, just listen to a couple of tracks off of it. It's horrible. Next up, we're gonna have, this is not a worst album, but it was a kind of a big disappointment to me. It was Tesseract's Erra. Now, the Tesseract does this. They'll release a big album, and they'll release like a little EP. Will rewrite a couple of songs, just to have something fresh to put out there. While this EP was okay, it was extremely bland. I listened to it once, and it didn't really have me coming back for more. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, man, this is cool. And then after that, I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't know. It kind of let me down. And their last album was okay. It was all right, but like I said, it felt rushed. I did in that review, but these guys really need to get their act together because they're a really cool band, but they've kind of been dropping the ball lately. Next up, another disappointment of mine would have to be Woven War's Honor is Dead. Their first album was awesome. I saw them on tour with Periphery. That poster behind my head, that was the tour I saw them on. They were really cool. That first album was awesome, but this album was mixed by Nolly Get Good from Periphery, which I love him. His production's awesome. But this album was horrible. Like, the vocals were weird. The song structures were lame. One of their guitarists left the band. I guess he got tired of their crap and left. I don't know. This album was a major disappointment to me. I wanted to like, I was looking forward to it. Then it came out and it was kind of like, bah. Okay, moving on. Another disappointment of mine is the drum sounds on Metallica's new album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Major Metallica fan right here. Major Metallica fan, alright. The kick drum on this album sounded like you were hitting a cold chicken breast with the bass, but it was louder than the bass, okay? Which, in some contexts, that's okay if they're playing the same thing at the same time. But it would overload the speakers in my truck. The snare was okay, but it still sounded a little too papery for me. The toms were nasty. They had entirely too much high end in them. Why, Lars? Stay out of the control room. You don't know how to mix drums, because your drums sound horrible on this album, okay? You screwed up And Justice for All by nuking all the bass out of it. Now, on Hardwired, you actually could hear the bass, which is a good thing, but your drum sounds were trash on here. Now, speaking of bands with bad drum sounds, this album was the worst album of 2016 for me, okay? For me. And that would be Dream Theater's The Astonishing. Ever since Mike Portnoy left the band, they have gone downhill. He was a great producer in that band, and he told John and Jordan when too much was enough, when they played too much. Now he's not there, and this album was absolute shit. The story was okay, but it was extremely weak. The songs were weak. Now, Petrucci had some really awesome solos, some of the best ones of his career on this album, but it was hidden in shitty music, okay? Jordan Rudess played entirely too much on a bunch of these tracks. He played too much, did not know when to stop, and they have this shitty auto-tune on James's voice. I was like, what are you doing? You have more money than you have sense. This shit should not be showing up on a band that is this big. And let's talk about the drum sounds. The drum sounds were better than they were in the last album, but they were still kind of bad. It's like, seriously, how do you not know how to get drum sounds? They got people who are recording drums in garages with shitty rooms who get better drum sounds than a professional band in a professional studio who are paying these people tons and tons of money to record them, and it sounds like shit. Stop it, guys. This album was horrible. horrible. I listened to it twice. I couldn't stomach it. The story is kind of stupid in itself. I get where John was going with it. You know, people aren't playing their instruments anymore. Electronic music is taking over. I get it, John. But seriously, this was so poorly executed. It's just hard to believe that this is the same band that wrote Saints from Memory, one of the most iconic prog metal concept albums of all time, and you came out with this shit. Stop. You need a producer who's actually going to tell you when's enough is enough, alright? You want me to come produce it? I'll produce it for you. You probably wouldn't like that because, you know, you don't want anyone telling you how to structure your album, but guys, you need outside guidance, and it's so obvious. Okay, I'm sorry, I ran a little bit. Now, let's move on to the best albums of 2016. Now, this is in no particular order. I just threw up the albums that I constantly kept going back and listening to, so this is not really ranked per se. It's just kind of my favorites. All right. First up is going to be Meshuggah's The Violent Sleep of Reason. When I first heard this album, I was kind of iffy about it because I was like, you know, the production is not exactly what I'm used to, because I was listening to Periphery 3 at the time, which was super clean. This is a little bit more messy. They record 80% of this album, whatever you hear, was live, okay? So a ton of it is live. They actually nailed it live, and I constantly kept... This is one of those albums, the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. This album's good, and I think it's better than Koloss because it's way more organic. It's not, you know, it's not as to the grid. They did it live, and I think that's where Metallica, where Meshuggah flourishes, is when they do stuff live. Next up, Devin Townsend, Transcendence. Adam Nolly Get Good mixed this album with headphones in a basement, and it sounds amazing. I actually kind of like the bonus discs a little bit more, even though those are demos. I don't know, this album is really cool. It's chill. It's chill at times. It's hard at times. It's the definition of progressive. Next up, thank you, Scientist Strange, Heads, Prevail. I actually got to see Devin in concert this year, which was awesome. And I actually got to see these guys the first time. Thank you, Scientist. This album is cool. This album is great whenever, you know, if you're listening to a lot of Meshuggah and you want something to chill on, this album is great for it. The drum sounds are very organic. The songs are really good. The choruses are really good. Very good. It's a straight up album of some very original music coming from these guys. Next up, we're going to have Periphery 3. Adam Nolly Get Good mixed this record. He produced it. I love this record. This record was awesome for me. He actually did a nail the mix where he mixed Prayer Position, which was awesome. We got to see how he actually mixed it. I don't know. This album is, to me, it's their best one because the songs are cool. They branched out and did some more poppy-esque songs. When I say poppy-esque, it's not, you know, just straight gent per se, and that rubbed a lot of people wrong, but Periphery is polarizing. They reach a lot of different people, so certain factions of their fans are going to hate what they put out. That's just the name of the game. Next up is Gojira Magma. I originally didn't really like this album a whole lot when I first started listening to it. It's kind of like Meshuggah. The more I listened to it, the better it got. The Duplante brothers' mother died when they were making this album, and it completely shifted how Gojira is. I mean, compared to Way of the Flesh, this is way more laid back. The screaming vocals aren't as prominent, but this album is when you want chill metal. Like I'm saying, whenever you want something that's hard, but you kind of want to relax, or if you want to put it on with people who don't normally listen to metal. This is the album. It actually got nominated for 2 Grammys, and Periphery 3 got nominated for a Grammy too. So even though 2016 was a pretty shit year for a lot of other stuff, the albums were actually pretty good. Next up, Haken, Affinity. This album was basically like if the whole thing was basically that take on 1985. It's cool. You got 8-string guitars. Haken is what Dream Theater should be, but with 8-string guitars. This album was mint. Now, this next album that's coming up, I actually didn't review it, and I don't know why the hell it took so long to listen to it, but Shokran, I always screw up the name. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. Shokran. They're from Russia. Exodus. This album is awesome. It's kind of like Transcendence. It takes you on a full journey of prog metal. It has everything. You have screams, you have good cleans, you have guitar solos, you have good riffs. This album is damn good, and I'm kind of ashamed I took so long to actually find it, but I'm glad I did. Next up, KIllswitch Incarnate. This album was really awesome. I still continually spin it. It feels like it came out 2 years ago, even though it came out at the beginning of the year. It has good songs. It has good choruses. Now, Adam D, the guitarist in the band, mixed this one. It wasn't as good as the last album that Disarmed Innocent, that Sneap mixed, but it was still good. I mean, he didn't have to pay anyone to actually mix it. KIllswitch doesn't have a bad album on them. This album was good. It was straight. Next up, this album did not really get a lot of hype. I don't understand why. Textures, Phenotype. They're supposed to release another one called Genotype, like next year. And this album is awesome. It's heavy. You have some heaviness going on. You have some softness. You have some instrumentals. You know, some piano pieces that connect to other songs, that connect to the last song. I like Textures. I like Textures from their last album. They lost their main guitarist and producer in the band. They replaced them. They came back out of this. If you want a good metal album that's takes you on a ride of progressiveness, you need to check Textures out. Next up, Toothgrinder, Nocturnal Masquerade. Taylor Larson produced this album with these guys, and he mixed it. I think he mastered it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he had a lot to do with this album. This album is so good. It's kind of like a progressive tech death album, I guess you could say, but songs were cool. It takes you on a wild ride. The songs are balanced. Production is great. Sorry about that. My camera stopped on me. Talked too long. Anyway, Larson did this album. It's great. I love it. I don't know why it didn't get that much traction. Kind of that and Textures didn't really get that whole much traction for some reason. Next up on the list, Car Bomb Meta. I had actually never heard of these guys. It's another one of those albums that I'm ashamed that took too long to catch up to. I actually did a story for this on Gear Gods, and I had never actually listened to them before, but man, this album is actually really good. It's kind of like, it's djenty, but it's also kind of math metal-y. So it's kind of like Dillinger Escape Plan. It's like them a little bit. They actually toured with them, but it's really good. It's cool. It's if you're into more like, you know, Dillinger Escape Plan, but you want some Meshuggah sprinkled on top, these are the guys for you. Great album. I keep coming back to it. Not much more to say about it. Check it out, definitely. Now, next one up is another one of those albums that I took forever to kind of get into, is Revocation, Great Is Our Sin. Now, this is some modern thrash metal. Great songs, great solos. Only thing I didn't really like about it is the top half of the album kind of all sounds the same, and the variety kind of gets toward the bottom. This year was a great return for thrash. You had Anthrax, you had Metallica, you had Revocation. You had Megadeth in there, but the best of the old school thrash albums is Testament, Brotherhood of the Snake. This album has great songs, has great riffs, has great solos. It kind of has this like hierarchy theme about these secret societies who actually rule society, but no one really knows about, type of thing. This is way better than Metallica album. It's better than Megadeth album. Now, Anthrax is another one who came out with an album this year. I didn't listen to it that much because I'm not that big on the Anthrax, but I heard it was great. So, Testament is definitely up on there for this list. Sorry if this list was a little disorganized, guys. I'm trying to get to everything. I'm super sorry if this video is really long. Now, the last album we have of the year of 2016 is going to be Erra Drift. I actually wasn't that big into Erra before this album, but JT from Texas in July joined the band as a screaming vocalist, and I listened to him. This album is great. It's so progressive. You have screams, you have cleans, you have good songs. The production on here wasn't my favorite. I think the mix and master could have been a little bit better, but I spun this album for a while. It's extremely good. It's extremely catchy. All right. Woo! We made it. I'm sorry I took so long. Now, I know I missed some albums. Oh, another one that I missed. I'm sorry this is so disorganized. It keeps coming to my head. Deerhunter. Deerhunter album 5. I missed this album. I don't know why, but during the course of the year, I missed it. I just reviewed Act 4. Act 5 came out. It made a lot of people's top album list. It was amazing. Definitely check that one out. Okay, guys. I'm sorry. I'm done now. All right. So, what albums did I miss? Did you approve my list? Did you hate my list? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, guys, the end of 2016, I just want to send a big thank you to everyone who's visited my channel, who's hit that like button, who's hit that dislike button, I guess, because you actually showed up and watched and care enough to hit it, who's subscribed, who's been with me from the beginning. I want to give a big thank you to everyone has been on my channel. I got some great stuff coming up for you in 2017. I'm already working on a cover with one of my friends. We got some brand new stuff coming out. We got some good albums on the horizon. And with this, we're going to bid 2016 a farewell. Alright guys, you take it easy and I'll see you next year. Peace.